Hey guys, Dark Humility here. Today we have a special build for you guys, the Wind Druid. Wind Druid on Hardcore PD2 Season 2. Yes, a Wind Druid. Remember, you guys can always catch me at www.twitch.tv/Dark Humility if you want to catch me streaming Diablo 2 related content, usually 7 days a week. Hope you guys have a great day. And, alright guys, Wind Druid. So like the Wind Druid, the Hammered In, just like the Wind Druid, is not an amazing build in Season 2 Hardcore. I mean Season 1, sorry. Season 1, hammers were over-nerfed. Season 1, Druid didn't get any additional damage, which really hurt his ability to map. In vanilla, this character struggled with damage to begin with a little bit, and with mobility in general. But in PD2, he's one of the higher mobility characters because of his gust skill, because he got better pathing on his tornadoes, he does more damage on his tornadoes, he still has amazing attack frames and overall awesome defensive power. He's actually a powerhouse in Season 2 with all those buffs and recent changes in PD2 in general, and Project Diablo 2 Season 2, especially for Hardcore. The Hurricane at the start of the video, that's right. So, we're going to chain our teleports here to the pit, which is the first strong LOD area he has. First, we're going to go over his strong LOD farm areas, like always when I make a guide. With or without insane gear, and then we'll go over his maps, and then we'll go over his stats, skills, and gear and options. Hope you enjoy this awesome guide. I'm wearing Enigma, so I can use both the skill Gust and Teleport, and believe it or not, I can chain them. I go Gust, Teleport, Teleport, or Gust, Teleport, Gust, Teleport, Gust, Teleport. I can actually move around very quickly on this character. Because of Gust plus Enigma, he just has crazy mobility. Necromancer can actually get 0 cooldown Blood Warp, so you wouldn't want to use Enigma on a Necromancer. But on this character, it's still 0.5 cooldown. You'll notice that if you use 0.5 cooldown, it's actually slower still. But if I go, you can move a lot quicker. Of course, if I chain my teleport. Of course, I only have 3 charges on the Enigma, so definitely got to make use of Gust here and there. Your Hurricane also lasts longer on this mod. Having it up at all times will maximize your damage. Even with just 1 point Cyclone armor, I still absorb a really high amount of elemental damage, which is awesome. My tornadoes and my Twister do insane damage. Twister doesn't do as much damage as Tornado. It doesn't seem to pierce as effectively as well. We'll explain why we're mostly using Tornadoes still. There's been good changes to Twister as well, but in most situations I would say you'd still probably want to use Tornado. But that being said, I have it on my left click and I have Tornado on the right click as well. Just to give maximum damage output in different scenarios. Just to make it nice, fluid, and easy. So we just found another 19 life small charm. Wow. Excellent! Alright, so that was his first strong area, the pit. The pit, even though he's weaker in general in LOD, is still one of his strongest areas, so pit's an 85 area. You can find anything in the game there. It's definitely a great farm, even when you're not fully geared up. So even when you have like half the amount of damage we have right now, it's a super solid area. Boss farms in general, unless you're like fully geared up, are not going to be insanely strong, so I'm not going to do them. Also, another thing that's not insanely strong is key farming. He doesn't have like a charge ability, and he can't use Gust in the non-teleport areas, and he also doesn't have consistent high teleport speed like a sorceress. So I wouldn't recommend key farming on this character. I mean, you can if you just want to MF or key farm for fun, but it will be a little bit slower than the other key farmers. So you can do it if you want, but it's not going to be super amazing. So I'm not going to do those areas. I'm also not going to do bosses because with that really good gear, they're also take a bit longer on a Tornado Druid. But we will do these 85 areas that you can do very effectively. One thing to note is that a lot of people ask this about the Druid, or the the Wind Druid. The Wind Druid does cold damage with his Hurricane and physical damage with his Tornado and Twister. Most of his damage is the physical damage. We're using Reaper's Toll to give us Amp. Really high attack speed on the Mercenaries, so he's proccing Amp constantly. Maximize his damage output. And you can do a Hurricane focus Druid that enhances your cold damage and uses Infinity if you want. This is a focus on the Wind focus Druid, so if you want to focus on that more massive physical damage, this is definitely the way to go. So one of the areas we're doing right now, one of the other really strong 85 areas for the Wind Druid is the Maggot Lair. I mean, sorry, not the Maggot, the Stony Tomb. Where am I right now? Stony Tomb. Stony Tomb has been upgraded to an 85 area in Project Diablo 2. And there's no physical immunes in here. I could also do the Maggot Lair on this character, which is also 85, but there can be kind of annoying physical immunes in there, especially when you're not as geared or you don't have Reaper's Toll. So it's not one of his very strongest areas. As you can see, he destroys Stony Tomb, so even without crazy gear, he's going to be pretty strong in there. He's also going to be really strong in Ancient Tunnels for the most part, so I'm going to also demo Ancient Tunnels. Once again, Maggot Lair, there's nothing really wrong with it. Even the things that are not 100% optimal, which we're not going to demo on this character, are pretty easy to do on this character, so he doesn't really struggle with anything. Like, there's definitely builds that have some really serious struggles, even when it comes to like mapping and whatnot. Like the Meteor Sword, for instance, will struggle in areas with fire enemies that can't be broken by Infinity. This character doesn't really have those. With the amplify damage on Reaper's Toll and my physical damage just in general, he does not struggle. You can see I can move around that map pretty quickly, so it's actually kind of nice. Mobility is definitely one of the keys to the early game when you don't have a lot of points. Even though Gus is one of the things you max last, once you start putting more points into it after getting a pretty high level, you're not quite as mobile as a Sorceress, but you're almost there. It's a solid option for sure. But you're definitely more defensive than a Sorceress. You have Cyclone Armor, you have Summons. Sorceress doesn't have that stuff. So it's a great choice for early game and late game hardcore. No, chat is not in the video. I don't put chat on my screen. There's two different camps of thought on this. Some people think it's annoying, some people think it's awesome to have in videos. I don't know where I stand really. But I know that it would clutter my screen, so I don't do it. Mittersmith's Reaver! Hello. That's actually a pretty good find. Too bad that it's still not an amazing item unless it's F. And even then, you'd have to get a really good corruption on it. So I'm not going to bother picking it up. That's a pretty rare find, though. If you go pure Hurricane, Ancient Tunnels is even more insane because it has no natural cold immunes. But with cold damage and physical damage, Ancient Tunnels get shredded. Another nice max level vanilla area that he destroys very easily. One thing to note is that he does have decent mobility, so you could definitely still do like the lower Kurast farm if you want, the clickable farm. If you get a lot of points into Gust. Like right now I'm just using Gust. You can just keep clicking them if you want. Most characters can do this farm very well, and when you're weak, it's a very solid farm to do. Sorceress is still better though. Sorceress has more mobility and more telekinesis. You don't have to put tons of points into teleport, you just have to put one on a Sorceress, so you can do that farm, but it's not too effective. You might rather have like a character that runs faster or like uses telekinesis, but it's okay. Another thing that he's actually surprisingly really strong at is Council. So Hydras have been buffed in Season 2, but Cyclone Armor makes short work of them for sure. And once you get really strong, it's almost trivial to just like tele stomp him and just jump on him and just kill him. Yeah, you can't work him like the barbarian, but you can kill them extremely fast. Very easy farm, even early game. As long as you don't get unlucky stone skin on Ismail, you can still kill them all. You just gotta make sure you have the tank stats on hardcore, and maybe you can't tele stomp them. You can use a bit more. Care, but he does Travincal pretty well though. Definitely a solid farm for him. What's up, Zerg West? How you doing? Yeah, check out his gear. S2 HC Wind Druid while I'm doing this. All right. Another very solid thing you can do with him. Like I said, you can key farm with him, but he's not the most optimal key farmer in the world. He's decent enough though. Is Chaos. Now he is a wrecking ball in Chaos. I would say, honestly, he even gives the Hammered in PD2 a run for his money. You have so much mobility with the double teleport that if you can get to the point to where you get Enigma, you can farm this area insanely fast. He is just destroyed this area. I was running player rate Chaos last night, and I was still destroying the monsters even in player rate. Like, it's pretty crazy. And the key, once again, to this being strong in this area is not being deterred by the immunities, like a sorceress might be, and also doing some kind of damage that destroys them. So there's no physical immunes in Chaos, and there's no magic immunes, which is why hammers are very good. But it's also why physical damage tornadoes shred this area. As you can see, it's pretty ridiculous. That's a monster that's even physical immune right there, breaking out with Reaper's Toll. I just need to do so much damage now. Doesn't matter. Alright. So yeah, as you can see, I'm making full use of my mobility. Hammered in at least has charge though, so mobility difference isn't too much, but both builds do very well in here. Highly recommend Chaos farming once you can survive it. That Res and Diara, maybe get max block. Avoid Desace. Alright. Alright, so, yeah, as you can see, Chaos, especially once you get all this gear up, once you get enough skillers and whatnot, is a joke. Especially if you're getting bored farming maps, or if you're just starting out, Chaos is going to be really good. And all the Stormcasters drop lots of runes, charms, gems, jewels, and otherwise. And you also can get any item in this 85 area, and you also get Diablo on top of that. Like, proc amp, Diablo goes down really fast, as you saw at the end there. In the beginning, though, boss killing will be a little bit more challenging on this character, until you get some source of amp. But overall, very, very solid farm. He also destroys Worldstone Keep, and one thing to note is that Cyclone Armor, he's actually safer than a lot of characters. You don't even necessarily need T-Gauze and P1 because you can survive the souls with it. So he's a very nice choice in hardcore. He just has so many defensive capabilities. He has very good mobility, and he has very good damage once you can get the skill level up. Like if I'm being totally, even a Conviction Soul there. You do have stacked Lightning Res though, no worries. Like, LOD Wind Druid never got this powerful. Like, never. And since a lot of characters don't have nearly as high of mobility Even if they do, they require a target in PD2. Actually gives Wind Druid a bit of an advantage, especially for LOD farming, or most of the other characters. When it comes to mapping, though, I would say he's a solid A-tier build, not S-tier, but well, we'll get to that in a moment here. Hello, Humble. How you doing? Hello. Okay. Well. Yeah, Worldstone is a breeze as well. And you don't even have to really worry about the souls too much if you stack your lightning res, even without T-Gods. Which is a little different for most builds. Okay, so we're actually struggling here because the mercenary is not proccing my amp. No! There we go. And once we get that amp up, those ghosts will die very fast as well. Solid. Even without my double teleport, I'm still pretty mobile. Not a big deal. I'm scared to do Worldstone. Yeah, it's a little scary because of the dolls and the souls and whatnot. If you get T-Gods, though, most builds can handle them. It's just this character. This character's got cheating armor is what I call it. You can just keep refreshing it as well. And one thing to note is that the Cyclone armor is not as strong in this mod as it is in LOD, so you can't like tank infinitely, but like in LOD, it's they actually nerf. That's actually one of the nerfs to the Druid because they thought it was a little broken. Looks like it's like 500 with just one point into it, though. You have to skill Arctic Blast to level up your synergies, so Cyclone Armor isn't a synergy in this mod. So it's pretty strong, but it's not super strong, though. So yeah, it destroys. It's pretty crazy, like. And then with your mercenary, you get some wolves out, because you can have wolves, bears out at the same time in this mod. Or even tankier than an LOD where you can only have the bear out, or the wolves one at a time. And then you get the a nice regen of the oak as well. Alright. And players win, they're just gonna melt. And we'll do Baal as well. So yeah, he's really strong in all the areas, to be honest. And obviously the more gear you get, the easier it's gonna get in LOD. Alright, that was a physical, I mean Lister. I did not save him. Sweet. Yeah, I'd say the Eth Reaper's Toll is worth a burr. I don't know about just a random Duriel Shell, though. Duriel Shell is nothing compared to Eth Reaper's Toll, so I don't know. And I mean nothing. Alright. Mercenary's gotta get amp on him. Once we get amp on him, he's gonna get shredded. Now in LOD, this is like the toughest boss for a Wind Druid, but you can get amp on Baal. No problem. Alright, sweet. Easy stuff. Alright. Well, that's it for the LOD content demos and explanations. Overall, just, you know, he does most areas very well because he has physical damage, and with amp, he can break almost anything. With mobility, he farms them very well. Mobility is a tough resource in PD2 because you don't have like Enigma where you can teleport everywhere infinitely, no repercussions. So having an ability like Gust, you can chain with Enigma or just Gust by itself, or Blood Warp, very strong abilities. Blood Warp, of course, is a Necromancer ability, but yeah, they are all going to be very solid. And LOD content cannot be underestimated. We found like 5 Hyrens in Chaos yesterday. No joke, no joke. They're still insanely strong. Alright, next up, we'll try this out. As an endgame build, I would say he's like a tier A build still, just like I said in my tiers video. But this is a tier 1 Horazon's map. I would say, honestly, when it comes to mapping, I tried out so many different maps today and had almost like no issues. So once you get the gear on him, he can do any map pretty much. But that being said, there are some maps he can do, I think, slightly more effectively than others. We'll try to do his best tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 today. And we'll explain, like even though I will put the map tiers in the description and the pinned comment below, I do say that once you get the gear on him, once you get at least Reaper's Toll and some damage and faster cast rate and whatnot, and you can survive and you have Storm Shield on hardcore, you can really do any map. You can do almost any map. There's a few maps that have like native physical immunes, which aren't super ideal. But even when you get ghosts in a map, which are physical immune, you can still destroy them. These ghosts aren't physical immune, but I mean like the ghost modifier, no problem at all. So one of his other strengths, of course, besides mobility and safety, is that he really can do it all. He's very versatile. And of course he also does a lot of damage. Because he's has such great mobility though, I really like Horazons. Horazons has a weird layout that makes it awkward for some characters to like move between the platforms and to kill the monsters and kill the elite packs. This character has such high mobility though that he really destroys this map, like really fast. Ruins and Bashman are also not really a problem, but they're actually pretty nice. But I'd say he really makes use of this map's really high density and tight corridors where mobility is required. And really like it. Kind of like Joust plus Enigma on a Hammerden also makes use of it pretty well. So does this character. However, I would say this character is even better than the Hammerden in here. Because the hammers kind of have some awkward positioning sometimes because of the size of the corridors. This character doesn't have that struggle. Tornadoes and twisters in general are perfectly sized for the corridors, which makes this probably, I would say overall, possibly his best map. But it's hard to say. Once again, he's really strong in almost all the maps. You're not going to get 2 bursts with that unless you slam it. The Hammerden is tankier, that's true. Well, I don't know. He doesn't have summons, but he's tankier because of Doom and for other reasons, but this boss, it's not much of an issue, really. We get Amp on her, and then with physical damage, you just sit on top of her and kill her. Yeah, the other reason I really like this map on this character is this character destroys that boss, even better than the Hammerden is. Magic damage is not quite as effective. The Hammerden has other advantages, though, such as the Mercenary also doing absurd damage, adding to an overall pool of a crazy amount of damage, which is why he's also an A-tier build. But when it comes to this map in particular, like, there aren't many characters I would say that can even beat this character at this particular map because of his immobility and his straight-up damage to the tight corridors. It's really tough. Even as an A tier build, he kind of almost has like an S tier arcane. The crazy thing is that he can get even more damage, especially on his Twister, but we'll talk about that. He's pretty strong though. Pretty happy with this current state of the build. But yeah, as you can see, yeah, this is like a negative block map too, and you can just see how tanky I am just overall. It's gonna be really hard for stuff to kill me. Especially because I killed him almost instantly. Hurricane puts him in hit recovery. Ooh, you know, I don't know if I've even found this item even once yet, this ladder. Dariel's Visage, nice. Cool. Can't do dungeons. Yeah, dungeons in hardcore are kind of a no-go. That's why I don't include them in my guides. There's no separate reward except for somewhat more XP by doing a dungeon. And in hardcore, the risk isn't worth the reward currently. Hopefully they will improve the dungeons in Season 3. Or just simply make them not quite as insane. At least damage-wise, maybe they can make them tankier or harder to kill, but I don't know. Otherwise it becomes, I wouldn't say softcore only content, but softcore feasible? Softcore ideal? I don't know. What do you call that one? That's right, still tearing it up on a Wind Druid on Project Diablo 2. Alright, wow, that was a lot of damage. I think he was double enchant. Yeah, if you see your health go down, that means your Cyclone armor went down, probably. If you have life per kill like I do, almost certainly survive that. Keep your wolves up, keep your bear up, keep your oak sage up. That's pretty key to your survivability in hardcore. The more of those you keep up, the better, which means that open wounds might not be super ideal. Yeah. Go! Wow. Can't click nothing. That's okay. Jalal's, yeah. Jalal's isn't really worth anything though unless it gets a god tier corruption. Whereas an Eth Reaper's Toll would be worth something even if it doesn't get a good corruption because people could just straight puzzle box it, crisscross it. So like if you just find it plain, if you're scared to corrupt items, you know, I love corrupting items in this mod because, you know, that's one of the features, right? But if you're scared to corrupt things, there's a lot of items that really aren't worth anything unless you corrupt them. And there are some items that, because of how in demand they are, especially some items in hardcore like Storm Shield and whatnot, they'd be worth something even without corrupting them. But items like Jalal's, like, there aren't enough people that play that build, like Shapeshifting Druid, to where, like, you just sell a non-corrupted one, most likely. Probably just want to slam it yourself and hope you get lucky, my man. Not saying you have to, though. There might be people that buy it the other way. Yeah, I mean, that's getting you close to your goals and don't corrupt it then. Nice. Yeah, we actually have life per kill on this build, which is actually amazing. Highly recommended if you can get some life per kill on him. My life per kill is on my corruptions on my rings. And you just shred everything. You don't have to worry about using potions too often. I'll talk about that in the build section though. It's kind of like hammers though. Hammers would also benefit from life per kill. Any build that gets in real close, and shreds definitely use it pretty well. Same goes for like a poison necro, for instance. Of course, he gets his life per kill on Death Whip, a lot of it anyway. Yeah, possibly. Well, if you corrupt it for me, I'll pay you something for it for sure then. If I can just get like 3 to 4 sockets on it with the puzzle box, I don't care what it corrupts, honestly. But a clean one would be pretty nice though. There is one way this build could be upgraded at Reaper's Toll. Just using a normal 3-socketed one, which works for the build, but you can definitely upgrade it a bit. Ah, finally some auras. Actually got kind of lucky so far with this map. Pretty clean. So, Grand Charm. Nice. So yeah, we did this map insanely fast, like, no joke, like, map and all, you could definitely be hitting like 15 minutes in there, maybe even less. So yeah, no problems, right? No problems. Alright, so, yeah, I would say that's his #1 map. He really makes use of his mobility to tear it up, and the size of the corridors is perfect for the tornadoes. That being said, though, all the Tier 1 maps he does very well. We're going to move on, though, to demo Tier 2, though, so you can see how he does in some different maps. Here in a second. Oh, that's kind of a nice map. Alright, so we have Darl's Visage. You know, I'm actually going to socket this one. Darn. Looking for a 4-socket actually. Challenging. Found an Andy's on video though. Nice. Alright, so that was definitely our best find in there. And right, next up, Torajan Jungle. So we're gonna do a Tier 2 now. So once again, just like with Tier 1s, he pretty much flattens all the Tier 2s too. Even Fledgathon, he kind of struggles a bit with the Fledgathon boss unless you have like some Fire Sword on him, like Steel Shade. But besides that, he definitely tears up Fledgathon. He tears up Blood Moon very well. However, he definitely enjoys the corridors more when the monsters are funneled into his damage, just kind of like with hammers. It's a little bit better. However, hammers prefer wide open areas a bit more than this character does. Because this character has more of a linear attack, whereas hammers have a bit more of a rotating attack. So hammers would prefer Blood Moon more than this character. He still tears up Blood Moon, but I would say that Torajan Jungle is definitely more suited to a particular attack, slightly. That being said, neither area has physical immune issues, and neither does Fledgathon really. And yeah, just in general, like you can tear them all up. Area Battlefield is also not even terrible as well, because it's pretty linear. The areas, the ditches are pretty linear. The trenches. So you can also do that as well. Some of the monsters in there are a little bit more dangerous, though. Almost needlessly so, though, so that might be his weakest tier 2. Even though it's not really
spare weapons, gold, a small gem is all I want.
Yo!
Equipment you'll need on whatever quest you might undertake. Nah, don't be shy.
Wait, you bricked it? Oh no, you actually slammed it, Chris? Oh, dude. I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry, you bricked it. I feel like I might have peer pressured you into slamming it too. I'm sorry. I feel bad now because that was a pretty good find. I mean, I brick finds like that, but you know, I bricked a absurd aiming last ladder, so. Wisecrack, 200 small gems. Thank you so much for feeding Geed. You legend. Oh, baby. No, that's okay. You'll find more stuff for sure. You'll get luckier. Sometimes the luck just isn't always there, 100%. You could have gotten like 20 hirings off of it though if you got certain corruption on it though. Problem is that it's actually really tough. Alright, anyway, Torajan jungle, as you can see, he tears his place to ribbons. The size of the corridors is just really perfect, just like with Horazons. It's pretty insane. Remember to keep that oak stage up. It's like 300 bonus life. Now, the key to not dying on hardcore, even from auras, make sure, first of all, they don't have dual aura if you have good gear.
I can already tell that I'll be your best friend in this.
The key is that when you jump into aura monsters, to immediately start firing tornadoes or twisters. Tornadoes are usually going to be better, but yeah. Like you can notice if I use twisters here, it just doesn't do as much damage, but if you're afraid of getting into the auras, let's say you're too weak, I would actually use Twister, because Twister is a nice ranged attack, and you can use it from farther away. The Twisters go farther, and they spread farther. Oh, nice. But they don't do as much damage, and also your Mercenary's radius on the amp isn't as high as Twister, whereas your Tornado hits that amp sweet spot, that the radius on the amp on your Reaper's pull just perfectly. And most of the time you're still going to be using Tornado. Helios91, thank you so much for the follow. Welcome to the Cold Xander's Day. If you guys don't know what's going on, we're making a guide right now for YouTube, and we're also farming, of course, so getting our farm in. Our farm on DG. Oh yeah, I think my screen still says he's level 90. He's actually level 91, but that's okay. It's okay. He's leveling up so fast it doesn't even matter. Hey, what's Wisecrack? How you doing? Thank you. Hope you're having a good night, man. Playing our new Wind Druid. Wisecrack! Getting the hype in here. Xanifying Chris Gossett, making Chris a member of Xana's attack squad that goes to the machine. The Arcane Disciples. Chat, spam those eyes of Xana in the chat for Wisecrack. Thank you so much, man. You always know how to get in the heat when you get in here, man. You always bring the heat. Chris has been Xanified. Chris has been here quite a bit for the last couple of days, so definitely needs to be a member of Xana's attack squad that goes to the machine, the Arcane Disciples. Get him. But yeah, as you can see, I can kind of just jump into whatever. Very similar to the Hammerden, he can just jump into whatever. I don't have Holy Freeze like he does, like on the Doom Mercenary, but I do have my Aminals. I also don't have Holy Shield, which makes my block frames insane, but Animals block so many of the hits for me that I can just jump right in. Tears it up for sure. Hey, Wisecrack. Also Xanifying Helios. 91, he's leaving no person left standing in the chat who hasn't been corrupted by Xana's clutches. For sure. And I'm sorry about your Reaper's Toll, man. I need a Reaper's Toll though. I do need an F Reaper's Toll. Maybe I'll find one. I don't know. I won't brick it. Kappa. I don't know. We'll see. Probably brick it. Good night, man. Nice water. Sweet. Oh, for me, huh? Not for Shiori? Damn. You're good, you're good. Oh, man. Okay. Yeah, you can notice that with the double teleport, I can get around maps very quickly, so even maps that have complicated layouts, or that I have to like double back on, backtrack a bit. Very nice. This might be my tankiest, like, I don't know. In some ways he's not as tanky as the Hammerden, but in some ways he is tankier. Depending on how you classify it. You can almost always break the physical immunities, so I wouldn't worry about, like, Stone Skin. Which is why even though it's not ideal if he does maps like Ancestral Trial, for instance, that has, like, physical immunes everywhere. You could still do it. Just gonna waste some time unnecessarily. Hey, unique ring, let's go. On stream. Bam. 29. Alright. Put that on the free list probably. Yeah, we just got rid of another Nagel ring, so free list can afford to have another Nagel. There we go. Dude, Wisecrack! Also, is now a member of Xana's tax while the Ghost of the Machine, the Arcane Disciples. No longer. Let's go. How you doing, my man? How's the life? What's up, Bacteria Slap? What's up, Westfall? How you doing? Roman Viking? Look at all that. That's a strong Xana salute right there. 100%. No, unique amulet. Maybe this one will fare a bit better. Let's see. Aw. Dang. Well, medium-ish Nado ring and Nokazon. Not the best, but that's okay. We found tutorials in the last run, so that's pretty solid. So even though I only have 170 MF in maps, this character has like 320. I could exchange my lifer small terms for MF small terms, so we can definitely get our MF way higher on this character. But that being said, 300 is always a good number anyway. So I wouldn't be too worried. It's definitely one thing that's a little lacking though at the moment. Slam it, let's go, 20 FCR. Okay. It's kind of a cute ring, I suppose. Get him. Alright. Yep. Got stone skin there. Let's broken with Reaper's Toll. Awesome, awesome. Glad to hear, man. Awesome is the best. No worries in your land, man. That's good stuff. No. What's up, Diddy? How you doing? Yeah, this is the S2HC Wind Druid. Here we go. As you can see, it's usually just going to be more effective to use Tornado. You can, though, you can use Twister, though, if you want to just range stuff. But Twister just doesn't do enough damage straight up in a lot of situations. Once again, the amp doesn't spread over the same range, so it's questionable whether you should use it most of the time. Tornado just does so much damage too as it passes over the enemies. It's got like particle damage too from like passing over them. And you got another physical immune. That's okay. Sweet. Awesome. There we go. We have small charm. Alright, oh, that's pretty good. Slam like some MDR on it. Right? No, it's actually PDR. Never mind. Yeah, so unless he amps him, I can't do nothing. Stop getting unlucky, mercenary. Reaper's Toll has 33% chance to cast amp, so it's very consistent if you get that break point up. Pretty crazy. Diddy also being Xanified. Oh, baby. Leaving no prisoners. No prisoners, guys. Making a member of Zan's attack squad who goes to the Machine the Arcane Disciples. Yeah, as you can see, if I need to backtrack, it's not too bad, right? Obviously, if you just go around the outside of the map, you shouldn't have many problems backtracking, but go over there, though. You can just do whatever you want, really. Dream you died today? Where? On Diablo 2? Or in real life? You know, I've had both kinds of dreams, honestly. I always wake up like right before I'm about to like hit the ground or something. I've had dreams where I'm like falling, you know. Right before I hit the ground, wake up. What's up, this one? Ooh. It's supposed to be the healthy dreams. Are those healthy dreams? Maybe. The other thing that I really love about this character is the Cyclone armor. Protects against those really strong hydras, even in the maps, not just Travincal. That's healthy, having the one of I died dreams. Yeah, I guess it means you have a, you know, healthy sense of wanting to live, right? It's not a bad thing, right? Did I put the Necro mine on hold? Necro will be played tomorrow, actually, but not going to be played as the Bone Necro, at least. We're going to try something different with a weapon. The craziest weapon you can get, pretty much. The Poison Necro. We're gonna try it. Okay. The worm's actually pretty easy because the tornadoes just pierce through everything. It's actually easier than on the Hammerden, at least in this one specific case. Damn. Get him. See that? Gotta go. Sound good. Get it. Thank you for stopping by. Hope you enjoyed. There we go. Getting those eyes of Xana in the chat for Mr. Wisecrack. What a beast. Am I right? Spreading that love. What a beast. Are Hammerden's viable in PD2? Yep. If you type exclamation, what is it? Exclamation guides? Yeah, exclamation guides. You can see the guide on YouTube if you want. I also made an update for him on my YouTube too. Exclamation YouTube. Check it out. I actually did a guide on the Hammerden, and I did an update for him when he had like 9,000-ish damage. Yeah, it's and I've even played him at 9.5k now. He is really good. Like once you get the gear for him. Last season he was garbage. I would also say this build was kind of garbage as well. At best, this build was like B tier last season. C tier. Now it's like it's A tier solid. Alright. Looks like we killed them all. Pretty solid. Hitting that like somewhere between 18 to 20 minutes, and that's impressive for such high density too, so. He's taking them. He's taking them. Taking no prisoners up in there. Alright, now let's demo the tier 3. Now, Throne of Insanity has like no physical immunes nor high physical resistance, which makes it pretty ideal in general. Some of the other tier 3s might be a little bit tougher, but not that much tougher. Honestly, once again, this character could really do it all. We're actually going to do one that's pretty difficult. We're going to put some Charger zombies in there to show you what he's really capable of here. If you died during the making of this video, at least no wolves died during the making of the video. Only druids. The wolves are set free. Alright, let's go. Yeah, it looks pretty beast. Yeah, if you type exclamation YouTube, you can check out my guide section, Seraph. I actually made a guide section. Exclamation guides. You can check out different builds that are actually really strong in PD2. You might not know about them because, you know, most people are only playing like, you know... I mean, I have a Trap Sin as well. I have a Chain Lightning Trap Sin, but most people are playing like Trap Sin and... well, there's a couple other builds that come to mind. Trap Sin, Boson, Maybe some Whirlwind Barb here and there. But there's so many good builds, though. There's so many good builds, and a lot of people don't even know they exist. That's why it's one of the reasons why I'm also playing these other builds. Not just Whirlwind Barb, not just Boson. We're going to do Boson, too, and not just Trapsin, but a lot of other builds as well. So you guys can see, like, oh, wow, Wind Druid's actually really strong. And it's also very hardcore friendly as well, considering how much power you get for the tank capability. He always wants, yeah, he always wants flirting tips from me. Pretty Pepega. I don't know. You ask him. Flirting tips, man. Oh, okay, I screwed up. I was wondering why my life is 10 lower. Alright, anyways, so this is a 200+% density, Thorn of Insanity. I could have corrupted it or something, but this works. So you can see, there's no physical resistance in here. Monsters are very, very vulnerable to physical damage. But otherwise, it's pretty tough for a lot of other characters. And the corridors, once again, are pretty nice. Once again, those beautiful corridors. He's just gonna shred. I think those casters have some physical resistance, but not a lot. So, not much of a problem here. You get that max block going, you get that high DR, you should be okay in case you do get hit a couple times. But overall, it's like, you know, your animals will take a lot of hits for you as well. You even got charger zombies in here, which is, you know, just proof that you can do Fledgathon as well pretty well if you want to in some other maps. Area Battlefield. It might not be these very best maps, but see, overall, he's a Titan. J-Mod, easy. Never lucky. That's actually not true. Sometimes we're lucky all the time. Other times, not so much. Finally found my skill ring today, baby. I accidentally caught feelings for one. Wow. Well. Your days of doing that are over, right, Shiori? Now they're over. Yeah, I do like that. I like how it kind of creates some more endgame stuff that you can do if you want to, right? Especially if you want like really efficient late game farming with really powerful builds in P1. Or just to get XP really fast. So in general, most of the time you can just use Gust to save your Enigma teleports. These are Enigma teleports for like repositioning macro-wise in the map. Getting into an area I haven't been in yet. That being said, though, Enigma teleport is a little smoother to some degree, so there is some advantage to using it just here and there. But if you use the double teleports and you chain them, really nice stuff going on there. Wow, this density is crazy though. Yeah, this Throne of Insanity is really good. Like for Boson, this would also be like a heaven right here. A lot of characters come to mind. Even Whirlwind Barb, but Whirlwind Barb, it's a little dangerous. A little dangerous. Can't control when you can heal. Yeah, well, that's... I don't know. Is it a fine line between bullying and flirting, or is it a Or are they really just the same thing? As long as, you know, the gender fits your sexual orientation, I suppose. Is there a fine line between them, or are they the same thing? Or are they different only when it's not a matter of attraction? I never knew there was too much of a difference there. It's just how a lot of people express themselves, you know? Mushy feelings, people don't like that. And so much stuff going on in here. Okay, I have too many potions, 100%. Actually, I haven't found too much yet, which is a little surprising considering the density. Now my MF is almost 350 in here, but that's okay. Not lucky at the moment. Ooh. Also, one thing to note is after you use Cyclone Armor, and right after using Gust, you can't use Cyclone Armor, but you can after using Enigma Teleport, so that can actually get you out of some bad situations sometimes. Oh, see that there? Just lost 700 health instantly. That's why it's important to keep your Oak Sage up. Even with this much DR, I almost have 40% DR on him. Things like Charter Zombies are gonna hit hard. And if there's auras, they can hit even harder. Be ready to juke still. You might save your life! I know I'll save your life. Stormcasters are good enemies. Am I gonna play hardcore and resurrected? Yep. Form an 8-man team as well. DM me or PM me somewhere if you want to apply to be a member of my 8-man hardcore resurrected team coming out the gate. We're going to 99. We're going hard the first few weeks. I want people that are gonna go super hard. Yeah, we're gonna go hard, man. Yep. We're gonna play resurrected. Wait, did I just find Pluck Eye? No way. I did. Wow. That's crazy. Do I have a Pluck Eye currently though? I might actually want to keep this for like my low level Zon. I haven't made my Zon yet, so I might actually want to keep that. Look at that. That's really rare actually. This after I was complaining about not finding anything. Super rare item. Might not be the most like valuable item in the world, but yeah. Hey, you know, some people are men tend to be pretty oblivious in general. Oblivious or indifferent sometimes. That can be challenging. So I get why you you know, you use that approach, right, Shuri? Dude, you should, man. Start training, dude. Start training. Time is now. Never played hardcore? That's fine, man. You can enjoy the journey if you want, you know. We're gonna do it. Yeah, buddy. Oh yeah, I haven't put my my fire's meteor sort guide on there yet, have I? No, I gotta do that. So I can use Twister too, but you notice that the damage is so much lower, and normally, like, it really is about the amp spread on Reapers that ends up making Tornado more favorable. But Tornado, like, passes through everything anyway, so... It's the linear hammer damage. Blood Spirit. Yep, I'm going Sork out the gate. You better believe it. If I die, I'll make a new one, but there's never a guarantee you survive the initial stages of Sorceress. So, we'll see. Not a guarantee, I mean, you know. Well, some people are just nice to everyone, right? Some people are just very nice, pleasant people. And some people take it as flirting, even though it's not. Now, if someone's always mean, then all of a sudden they're nice, it's a dead giveaway. Or if they're always nice, and then all of a sudden they're mean, that could also be a dead giveaway. But if they're always nice, and then they're nice no matter what in all situations, there's no way to tell exactly. It can be kind of hard. But they might like increase it a bit, you know. It might go up some levels. Not everyone is. That's Sixth Sense. I don't know. A lot of people don't even want to engage it, you know. It's not even at the forefront of people's minds, you know. Oh yeah. Abusive relationships, that's the worst. Those are worse than no relationship at all, 100%. Some people might not be convinced of it, but it's true. Alright, so Mr. Enio the Insane is not too bad. We can get right on top of him. His Hydra's do an insane amount of damage, though. Nice, Grave Palm. 14% Deadly Strike. My brother met his wife in World of Warcraft too. My brother is they met in World of Warcraft like 8 to 10 years ago, yeah. My brother just married a year and a half ago. Yeah. Yeah. It's a thing. People meet online a lot more these days. Doesn't even have to be like online dating, quote unquote. I'm gonna start Blizzard Sorceress. Blizzard Sorceress Trauma. We're gonna do the, I'm gonna start Teleport Sorceress for the 8-man group, but... I mean, I could also start the Blizzard Sorceress, but I should start Teleport. I'm pretty confident in my teleporting ability. My ability to juve, but if I get one shot, well... There are ways that happens. Put it that way. Oh. Default winky faces. Well, yeah, I mean, Twitch emotes can definitely express a much greater range of emotions than any of those AOL chat room emotes back in the day. But yeah, as you can see, we're still doing the guide. As you can see, he tears it up. I would recommend this map. We've got a couple of wider open areas, but that's fine. The corridors are really good. There are a couple of cold immunes which can't be frozen by Hurricane, which are those, but it's only the Doomcasters. Those aren't the monsters that you need to freeze anyway to have a bit more safety. Those don't really do that much damage. They're just more annoying than anything else. Drain mana. Remember, if you ever see charter zombies, to teleport directly on top of them. That is the best way to avoid taking giant amounts of damage from those monsters. And that would go for any character, like a Hammerden or anything. Hammerden is bad though, because he gets knocked out of positioning a lot worse than this character. Which is why I would say this character in Charger Zombies is a bit more favorable for that particular matchup there. Druid versus Charger Zombie, rather than like Hammerden versus Charger Zombie. Hammerden's extremely positioning based, whereas this character not quite as much. Tele's stomping, of course, is amazing, but positioning isn't quite as important. So if you get knocked around by Charger Zombies a bit, it's not going to matter. Alright. Skip a ton in between, yeah, for sure. Well, no, what you should do is you should teleport. You should teleport. Yeah, avoid teleporting in player's aid as much as possible. That's right. I mean, that's one way. You can just go to the other end of the spectrum. Not enough water, you die of dehydration. Instead, you can just drown yourself. You know, that works too. Just go to the other. Just go to the whole other end of the spectrum. You know. Too much water, too little water. You know. One way or the other, you know. Love the hurricane uptime in this mod, it's really nice. I feel like you have to constantly refresh your hurricane vanilla. Definitely a little bit of a challenge sometimes. When it does run out, you notice it more, like, oh, I don't have my hurricane. Adopting a cat, really? That's pretty cool. Well, you know, cat can be your best friend, humble comrade. It's okay. Well, you turn over a new leaf. You just change everything about you. You didn't like who you were before. That works. If you don't like who you are, just change stuff, you know? Be something different. Of course, everyone has a teenager phase, so that phase gets old for a lot of people. Yeah, that's how it is for most people, for sure. Arcade power! Yeah, anyone that tells you this character is garbage in PD2 probably hasn't made one. But that's why we're here. So very soon we're going to go over the stats, skills, and gear to show you guys how to make this character insanely strong. So that you too can enjoy the fruits of the Wind Druid. On hardcore or softcore PD2 for that matter. I can explain some gear differences for softcore as well. Fire res is not that stacked, so they will do a bit more damage to me if I drop my cyclone armor. Just make sure to refresh it once. In general, it's gonna be pretty solid though. XP's amazing in here. Dang. Yeah. Poor wolf. Whimper. What's up, Kurast? How you doing? And that's yeah, that's usually how it is. That metabolism just starts dying down. There's Essie. So okay. Looks like we're getting pretty close to done. Killed the boss. Just tell he's stomping just like the Great Worm, just like everything else. Probably stomping the like Lieutenant of Sin though is a little dangerous. Because like I said, it's the only really challenging aspect of that map. He can pop you for sure. Area. Black eye, baby, let's go. Nice. Alright, looks like we just have to go around this circle here. And we'll be good. This doesn't look insanely strong to you? No? Well then rip! It's okay. That's an opinion. Insanely strong. Well, like I said, you know, it's an A tier build, so I ranked all the builds in the beginning of the season. So on the builds I ranked A tier. Fireson I ranked double S tier, Fire Trapson, and Trapson's S tier, Poison Necro's S tier. So there are builds that are faster than this for sure. And if you compare everything to traps, and everything is weak, so at least for mapping. Trapson though can't beat this character actually in regards to LOD mobility though. If you're farming LOD areas, Trapson actually loses out to this character pretty heavily. Obviously for mapping though, I mean Trapson's just Trapson. Death Sentry. But you know, when I made exclamation S2 tiers and I made the video, I was honest, you know. And Trapsons are Trapsons, so. If all you care about though is map efficiency, it's true that the Trapsons are very hard to beat, especially in terms of like safety and overall power. I played a fire Trapson last ladder. I have a chain lightning Trapson this ladder. Fire Trapson though is a good still. Go for sure. Yeah, nothing beats Trapsons in maps, so I guess, you know, I should always put the disclaimer, no, you should actually never play this build because it's not cool to play other builds. You should only make one build in the game, Trapson, because if you don't, then you'll be going a little bit slower than you can do with the Trapson, right? Nah, I'm just kidding. No, no, no. I don't actually believe that. There are some people that believe that, though, you know. What will beat Trapson when Death Sentry gets nerfed next season? Depends what else gets nerfed. Current S tier builds are Throw Barb with the right gear, Poison Necro. Death Sentry gets nerfed even harder, and other things, or Wake of Fire gets nerfed even harder, then other things will beat it, right? Boson with enough power can probably almost beat a Trapson already, but not quite, so look to those other S tier builds for sure. Look at that. They're bugged. They're eating the same corpse. It's actually an interesting bug right there. Nah. I actually enjoy exploring all the builds, and this is an A tier build. When I make build guides, I've made build guides for any build that I'd consider to be A tier or higher. Anything that's kind of like trash tier, at least for doing like normal content or all content or whatever it's supposed to do, whether it's Ubers or key farming or Travincal in the case of the Trav Barb. I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't do a guide for it. This build is at the threshold of strength to where I'm like, okay, this is pretty cool and pretty strong. So, you know, if you get tired playing, you know, builds like Trapson or other things, or you want some variety, or you don't care necessarily about Trapsons, you don't care for the build, there's all kinds of things you can do. You think Poison Necro will get nerfed? I'm not sure. It was really strong last season. It's really strong this season. It's still in the S tier zone though. I consider S tier builds to be a bit too strong. That's my definition of S tier. I consider A tier builds to be balanced and strong. So I consider this to be a strong and balanced build. You need a lot of gear to be this powerful, right? But even before this point, like it's fine. It's balanced. I consider once you get to the S tier, I consider it to be a little too strong. At least a little too strong. If at least like maybe like a little bit too strong. So like Poison Nectar is a little too strong for what it does. Throw Barb can become too strong a little too easily, and you know, Trapson is obviously too strong. So there's definitely a lot of issues with that. Yeah, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't really require Death Web though, but you're right. With Death Web, it really starts to pop off, right? So yeah, I mean, I don't know. True, I actually found one this season. We're gonna make a Poison Necro tomorrow. Bye-bye. Alright. So let's go into the stats. So that concludes the demo portion of the video of the guide for the Druid. on his LOD and map areas. As you can see, he's very versatile. He can do almost every map. And he has 3 maps in particular he's really strong with in Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3. And he can really tear up almost everything. He has very high mobility, which makes him ideal for LOD farming. And with max block DR and res and animals, like, he is one of the safest, like, telestomp characters, like, period. So in a lot of ways, he's very ideal for hardcore. And very powerful and strong build that can do it all. Alright, well, anyway. Let's go. Talk about... Oh yeah, one thing I should mention is that he's also really good for Eldritch and Shank farming. I didn't mention that in the LOD segment, but... Yeah, also you can do cows, but not as effectively as some other builds. Right, I'm actually not going to want Hurricane on, actually. It's very loud. Alright, so let's go over the stats and the skills and whatnot. So this is a portion of the guide, you know, how to build a character and whatnot, and how to actually make this character do what I just demoed. That being said, I think if they nerf some of those S tier builds or like Traption, like next ladder, these A tier builds like this one should shine even more. So like, these builds are already insanely viable and insanely strong, but once they get rid of some of those like crazy outliers, like I feel like more people will be playing builds like this one. Which is partially like we're making these guides for this season, but also for next season, so you can kind of see like what kinds of things are possible here. Keeps it interesting. Gear requirement is pretty high. Yeah, I think that's why they don't nerf Poison Necro, but I don't know, we'll see. It definitely takes a lot. Alright, so let's go over the stats first, sorry. So we got Tornado and Twister. You can actually get to like 11,000 damage on your Tornado if you have enough plus skills everywhere. It's actually kind of insane. You can get it to like, well... It's like 10.5 to like 11k. I think you can get 11k pretty comfortably though with certain other gear. This gear is a bit more defensive though, and it's pretty solid stuff in general. So once you get that damage around like even 7,000, you really start to tear through LOD content. But once you get it to like 9,000 and then above that even, you'll destroy the maps pretty easily. You should have 156 strength, just enough to wear a Storm Shield with the Strength bug. I had it bugged on since an earlier level though, so Enigma's been giving me more strength. I need to respec at some point. We have Dexterity, enough to reach max block. So max block is amazing on hardcore, especially on a build where you're jumping into monsters that do maximum damage, just like hammers. Works the same way. Maximize that damage with your mercenary, get the amp proc on the most number of monsters possible, and you hit the most number of monsters possible by jumping right in there. So you're going to want that maximum block. Remember, when you level up, you have to put more points into Dex to maintain maximum block on whatever shield, but yeah. And then we have Vitality, so just put the rest of the points into Vitality, and you don't need to put any points, extra points into Energy. So another thing to note is that when my Mercenary has his Defiance Aura on, we get around like 7,000 defense, which is also pretty solid. Having Enigma and Storm Shield, which are high defense items, and Delirium, that's a lot of defense. Actually ends up getting us a pretty significant amount of defense, which is also really nice for surviving on hardcore. Quad res. So my res are insanely stacked. You don't need to be this stacked. Matter of fact, where the 90s are, or at least like 105 would be pretty nice on most of these. Poison could be stacked a bit for maps that have negative res. But yeah, I just have a ton of res coming out of my ears in my particular setup, but you don't need it like that. It's always good to have stacked res in hardcore though. If you're stacked at least 30, 35 plus, Conviction won't do anything, so that's kind of nice. Unless it's Mephisto. Okay, so Also have DR. So you're also going to want to have a decent amount of damage reduction. Once again, my Mercenary has his Defiance Aura on, which he doesn't. I hit 36% DR. I'd recommend having at least 30 or more on this build. You don't necessarily need 50, but getting somewhere between like 30 and 50 is pretty solid. And using that Defiance Aura on the Mercenary is going to be solid as well, to get that flat DR and just the defense overall. And then you don't need attack speed because you're not swinging your weapon. Cast rate 100. So I 100% recommend. On softcore, you can hit 163 pretty easily. It's a little harder to hit 163 on hardcore because you need that max block. And those really good max block shields don't have native FCR. You can potentially get 163, but it's going to be tough, and it's going to have to sacrifice base damage. I don't see it as very necessary. I think on hardcore you should just be going for that 99 breakpoint most of the time. And that way you can get more plus skills, and you can get FCR, and you do plenty of damage at 99, so it's not that big of a deal. And then, once again, since we're max block, I've said in other build guides, FHR is not as important when you have really high defense and max block. That being said, though, I do hit at least not 0. I have at least a better frame than 0. Somewhere in that like 16 to 39 range is going to be whatever for max block, because most of the time you're using your block frames. Block frames are pretty good on a druid in general, but you could make them even better. It's just 35% faster block rate. You can make it, I think you can hit I think there's a 52 breakpoint. Yeah, there is a 52 breakpoint for druids, so you can put like a shale in here, or you can use like water walks or something if you want to increase it slightly. That would actually be more effective than increasing your FHR in most scenarios, except for elemental damage. But since you have Cyclone Armor, you don't take a lot of damage to your health directly. Usually going to be blocking or losing Cyclone Armor. Hit recovery is not going to be insanely important on this build. Magic Find. So you can get more Magic Find. Right now I'm just using a whole host of lifers for the most part. Most of my other build guides I've shown you guys like more MF small charms. I can definitely do that. I feel like I'm pretty tanky as it is, so I'll probably like stack him with more MF in the future. But in maps he's still hitting a pretty comfortable like 300, 320, somewhere between 250 and 350 at least, which is pretty solid. So yeah. Is a 3 light skill Sork Ammy with 92 life worth keeping? Absolutely. Try to corrupt it for a plus skill. That's a good idea. But overall, stats you should be going for are MF, damage reduction, max block, defensive defiance, and just your overall gear. And your 99 FCR breakpoint, and just stack res like normal. Matter of fact, if I can get my mercenary to see if I can get him to proc defiance. Let's see if we can show you guys just how much reward you can get by having these high defense items. Monsters don't hit you very often. He actually has to proc defiance though. Go, mercenary, go. Oh no, man. Proc it, buddy. There we go. So now you can see my DR is 36%, 9 flat, and I have 7,800 defense, so we're gonna get pretty near 8,000 if I keep putting points into dex to maintain max block anyway. That much defense though, you can see that like things don't hit me very often, even if they aren't hitting my animals. So like this character is very safe, and she's also very powerful just in general. Just very cool stuff. Last ladder, you might have been lucky to get somewhere near like 7,000 damage, by the way. Maybe 7,500 if you really stacked. But now you can get like 11,000, like instead of like 8,000 maybe capped last ladder, you can get like 11,000 capped. So the damage is pretty insane, even with everything else. All right, let's go over the skills. So yeah, I am recording a guide. What's up, Gluten? How you doing? Damn. You gonna puzzle it? Dang. Okay, anyway. Alright, let's not get distracted. Alright, so anyway. We have wind skills. So we are going to be maxing out all the synergies for Tornado and Twister and Hurricane. All of these abilities are abilities that you're going to use, especially Tornado. This one doesn't have any synergies, but just putting 1 point into it is very effective. If you don't want to max out your Oak Sage, you can put points into Cyclone Armor instead to increase your absorption of LE damage. I don't think it's really necessary, and also I'd rather put points into Oak Sage so the Oak Sage doesn't constantly die, so it has more health. But you can put more points into this if you want. Overall, though, you're always going to max out these skills. It's pretty simple. And then on Gust, depending on how many plus skills you have on your gear, you're going to want to get it to exactly level 30. At exactly level 30, your cooldown is 0.5. So you can see my teleport is up very frequently. Obviously, if you want to teleport faster, you can, of course, chain it with Enigma Teleport. And then you don't have any cooldown at all, at least for a little bit. But as you can see, you want it level 30. Before level 30, it has a higher cooldown, and that's going to slow you down. It's going to slow down your mobility. You want that smooth mobility and gameplay for sure. All right, more plus skills, of course, the less you're actually going to need that, though. Okay, so next we have summons. So you don't do anything with shape shifting for this build at all. I like to put 1 point to Grizzly Bear because if you get a point all the way down here, you can even get Spirit Wolves on top of Dire Wolves. I don't bother doing that because I feel like it's overkill, and also the Spirit Wolves. Spirit Wolves don't have as much health as the Dire Wolves, so the Dire Wolves die a decent amount anyway, so I don't really see the point of doing that. I mean, you can do that if you want, though. I can actually use all three. I just use 1 point to this, 1 point to this, and I get a decent amount of health. They're pretty tanky as they are, especially if you bow them. And they get even tankier with Oak Sage. So when you level up Oak Sage at the end after you're done leveling up your damage, you get a pretty decent extra health pool, you get regen, and it also helps out your summons tank a bit more as well. So on this build, you could also do some other things as well, like you can go Vines if you want to a degree, if you want to regen your mana a bit better, but I would just recommend having maybe some MPK or some mana regeneration or a decent mana pool on your build. They die a lot. Like, they die all the time, the creepers, unless you have a decent amount of points into them. Dark Force spawn is very good on some builds, specifically Curse Necros, and it's not worth a ton because tons of people don't play the build, but it is worth something. It's worth like somewhere between like an Ist and a Vex, depending on the role, I think. And then if you get like good corruption on it, it's pretty solid. But yeah, your main skills are gonna be Oak Sage, Grizzly Bear. I like summoning some wolves too for some extra tanks. They survive pretty well, a lot better than the Spirit Wolves do, even with 1 point. And then you just put the rest of your points into Wind and use your 1 point Cyclone Armor and get level 30 Gust. Pretty simple build, really. Nothing too crazy going on the skills. Not a lot of alternative strategies, really. That's kind of just how you want to build the character. A lot of characters have some weird stuff going on where you can do some things depending on preference, but there aren't a lot of like preference-based things on this character. It's just like a good way to do it, really. Alright, so let's go over my gear and why I chose the things that I did and talk about like what you're trying to go for on this build. So Reaper's Toll, 100%. This is best in slot. Reaper's Toll. You want a Reaper's Toll. If you get an F Reaper's Toll, even better, because then your Mercenary is doing more damage, which adds to your overall DPS. As you can see, he doesn't really need it necessarily. This is a high ED roll, so it's fine. But if you get an F1, it's even better. The key is getting ones with sockets if you can, because you want to like maximize his attack speed. So I'll talk about that the rest of the gear as well. But you really want that high attack speed because you're casting amplified damage on striking. That's the key there. Believe it or not, like I'll reiterate again. I'll reiterate that the tornadoes and twisters are physical damage. Hurricane's cold damage, but the hurricane's not going to do as much damage as your tornadoes. So your physical damage, you want that. You want their physical resistance on the monsters dropped as much as possible. And 33% chance to cast 16 amplified damage. It will be up all the time. Unlike on some other physical damage builds that are attack based or attack speed based, since this is a caster physical damage build, you don't need auras like Fanaticism, Might, or anything like that, which makes an Act 2 Mercenary very well suited for this build. Because not only do you get the weapon with the highest chance to proc amplify damage, but you also can get Defiance Aura on top of that. You don't have to worry about having like Might on an Act 5 Mercenary, and you don't necessarily have to worry about having Templars either, or other items that are going to grant you auras. Caster-based physical damage builds, which there's a couple of them. Battle Cry is another one. No, sorry, not Battle Cry. War Cry is another one of those on a Barbarian. But this is definitely one of those caster-based amp builds. And Reaper's Toll is just always going to be best in slot for that, 100%. You also get him freezing the enemies along with your Hurricane on top of that, and ignore target defense, which means he's just going to be hitting everything all the time. And you get Life Leech and Deadly Strike. So like overall, like if you get an F1, it's going to be even better. I got one with 3 sockets, which is kind of like the bare minimum to hit attack speed elsewhere in the build. Well, not really the bare minimum. You could put attack speed jewels in the armor or something, but you're going to want some kind of Reaper's Toll with attack speed. Anyway, that's 100% best in slot. Crown of Ages. I actually just put the ED attack speed jewels in there today, so this item's better than ever. I'll put it on the Zealer as well. Crown of Ages is amazing for mercenaries because of the curse duration. Your mercenary is not going to die as much. It's not going to die as much with the animals anyway on this build, but it's got hit recovery. Once again, attack speed. Now we're at 105 attack speed. We're going to want 142 to hit the max attack speed frame for a Thresher weapon. Remember to check exclamation attack speed calc, or check the attack speed calculator on the web to figure out how much attack speed to get maximum speed. But since this is a proc based build with trying to proc amplify as much as possible, you're going to want him to strike as much as possible. So you need him to have really high attack speed. You might have noticed my mercenary is he's just going nuts, like he's attacking super fast. That's good because that means amp is up almost all the time. Of course, this is also all res and physical damage reduction as well, so really can't go wrong with this helm on this build. There's definitely other things you can do though, like Vampire Gaze and Andes, depending on your setup. Alright, Lava Gouts. Lava Gouts, I really like Lava Gouts because Lava Gouts increases the chance that he even amplifies bosses that aren't affected by ignore target defense or other AR-based things, because he gets Fire Enchant on striking, which increases his AR. Since it has attack speed, that's getting us to 125 attack speed now. And it also has half freeze duration, which means he's not frozen very much, which means you can keep proccing amp. You can also get cannot be frozen somewhere on the build if you want. That would also be very useful. I'm just using a half freeze duration thing, which seems to work just fine. And then you also get negative target defense on there as well, just for fun. And you have maximum fire res, so he doesn't die from hydras as often as well. So he's really good in all these maps with these items. He's very tanky. And then he also gets more Deadly Strike off the belt and more attack speed, getting us to 145 attack speed. At 145 attack speed, he's hitting that 142 frame for a Thresher, and he's attacking insanely fast. He also gets more Life Leech off of this, so he's got so much Life Leech, DR, and everything on this build. And he has damage because, and more defense because there's fortitude. You can also use stone and other things as well. You can also use gold wrap. You can use laying of hands. There's so many things you can use. Ghoul hide, Drax. So many options in a lot of these slots. But the key is to getting that attack speed high, making sure he's not frozen very often, giving him his defensive stats. He's actually wearing this for defensive stats, but also for strength, so he can wear this ultra high defense strength requirement sacred armor. I can swap some things out and still use fortitude otherwise, but fortitude's gonna be really nice for that damage as well, that res. And as you'll notice with his res, like almost all of his res are like at least 80. Yeah, he's a monster. Like he's not gonna die, and he's got attack speed. If I get an F Reaper's Toll on him, he's gonna be even more of a monster. But looking pretty good so far. Horazons, that's an option. I don't know if I'm gonna actually want to use Horazons in the long term on this character, but it is an option. It is an option. We'll talk about different options for the weapon. I don't have a insanely like god tier Horazons at the moment, so that would be something to do. On swap though, you're always gonna want Call to Arms and as well. Let's get that health up for all your animals and for yourself and for your mercenary. So Lady Darrell actually in the chat just mentioned a really good option for this character actually. So we're using Heart of the Oak, which is solid in a lot of ways, because all of the animals also get 3+ skills. So does the Oak Sage. We have the Replenish Life on top of life per kill, which means that we don't have to use many potions. And we still have 30 FCR, which is the same on Horazons, and we have all res, and we also have increased mana. There's a lot of quality of life on Heart of the Oak or Hodo. It's often overlooked. If you want more straight damage though, for your Tornado and your Twister, you're gonna want to use Horazons. That's the only other weapon I would actually recommend for this build, period. This is a bit more of a defensive quality of life option, but if you just want to go more damage to get closer to like 10k Tornado or like closer to 11k Tornado, Horazons can get up to 5 Twister and 5 Tornado, depending on the roll. And if you get like a Force Socket, like Corruption or something on it, you can even get like, whatchamacallit, you can get like 120 MF if you put Istrins in it or something, or you can get like a +1 skill on it. So you can get a ton of MF and a ton of damage, but then you lose the all res, and then you lose the mana, and then you lose the quality of life for your summons, which means they're going to die a lot more often. And you also lose like the regen and everything else. So it's kind of a preference thing. Horazons is a very expensive option though, because it's a very rare item, and to get really good corruptions on it, it's even rarer. So it might be kind of tough to find a Horazons, but if you do, Horazons Tornado is definitely a real tornado weapon in this mod. So check it out. That would be the only other option I'd go. In the helm slot, so in general, 5 NATO, 6 NATO helms have almost always been the go-to for a Tornado Druid. That's no exception in PD2. One thing to note though about Delirium is that if you find a 3-socketed helm with 3 Tornado, 3 Twister, or both on it, Delirium no longer turns you into a doll, which means it's actually hardcore safe now. You no longer get turned. There's no 1% chance to turn into an Stygian doll, which means that you can use this with impunity. So you can abuse this. It's just Lem Ist IO. You get 5 Tornado Helm easy, and you even get MF on top of it. If you get lucky and get insane corruption on a 5 NATO helm, get like 3 socket corruption, you can definitely make helms better than this. You can also make helms that are. Like I said, you can make Delirium out of like a 3 Tornado, 3 Twister helm, which might be even better for using both of them at the same time. So there's definitely ways you can make this a little bit better. If you want to lower your damage, but you want even more survivability, let's say you want more DR, more life, and more mana, you can even go Shaco. But that's going to lower your damage. So I like my balance between like damage and survivability. I think it's pretty good right now in the current build. But there's definitely things you can do. What was the bit about the doll? So in vanilla, Delirium could turn you into a doll on being struck. There's a very small chance it happens, but it can screw you over in hardcore big time. So they removed it in this mod though. So Delirium's a nice choice if you don't have any insane helms. Get MF, you get 5 Tornado, pretty solid. This helm, you can also of course use Steel Shade of course as well. Like if you want to do Lieutenant of Sin runs and Phlegethon and whatnot. And you get Fire Absorb, which would make you even safer in Chaos in some ways. So there's definitely a lot of options here. Steel Shade will give you more block as well. Dread and Mark. Well, in general, you want to hit that 99 FCR. So there's a lot of options here. You could even go like 4 Ellie Ami if you get like a +1 Ami on a 3 Ellie skill Ami and get even more damage. So once again, there's ways to get more damage, especially on these 2 items. But 2 Druid skills means that, once again, your summons are stronger as well. So, to me, it's all a balance between, you know, having things that can survive in hardcore and also being able to do the damage and being able to survive and whatnot. You also get the res on this Ami. I crafted it myself. I got like all res on it. Got FCR. It's pretty sick. Gives you mana and regen as well. So, you can get better Amis though. You can get like a 219 Ami, which would be even better for most standard setups. So a 2 Druid 19 FCR will hit 99 FCR using a lot of standard setups pretty easy. If you can get your hands on one of those, that'd be pretty sick, but they're pretty rare, and you can definitely self-craft them though. That perfect Amethyst Ral Jewel amulet recipe with a level 93 or above character when you're gambling off Geed definitely serve you very well for making really sick Druid amulets. You can also use Mars though if you have your FCR elsewhere in your build. You could use a 4 Ellie Ami if you want to increase your damage, but not worry about your utility or your quality of life. Lots of options there though. Lots of options. Lots of options indeed, so there's definitely some stuff to consider there. I'd say those are probably the best options though, the ones I discussed. Enigma. I love Enigma on this build. Especially for LOD content. For not LOD content, there's other things you can do. But for moving around a map and just in general having really smooth mobility as you're teleporting through Chaos and from seal to seal, this character destroys Chaos, and the best way to do it is to chain your teleports. I love chaining teleports on this build. It makes you have feel like you're playing LOD teleport style. It's really nice. Of course, you also get Magic Find, you get the DR, you get the life, you get the strength, you get the skills, faster and walk. As you can see from some of my build guides now, you might notice I don't actually hate Enigma on PD2, and I don't. I actually use it on a lot of builds because it's got a lot of quality of life, it has MF, it gives you your skills, it's pretty solid. And if you get your DR elsewhere, like on Storm Shield, it's going to be really solid just in general. There's other options you can go here though, like you can go Alder's Armor with +1 maybe. Or you could just go Alder's Armor in general with 3 sockets. Go Alder's Armor +1 and get a little bit more damage. You don't get quite as much MF doing that. But there's definitely some things you would lose from doing that, so it's quite a bit of things actually, and the mobility. You know, if you ever want to reposition a map so you can chain your teleports and you can be fighting the monsters again real fast, so it's pretty insane. And, oh yeah, we already went over the swap. Alright, Storm Shield. Once again, we're playing hardcore. On softcore, you can use things like Lidless Wall a bit safer, especially if you feel like your animals are going to tank for you most of the time. If you don't mind dying here and there, maybe, using Lidless Wall would be very nice to increase your FCR and get more plus skills. Another thing you could use that might be decent on softcore, maybe not as much on hardcore because it doesn't have DR, is Spirit Ward. Spirit Ward gives you 2 Druid skills. If you get a 2 Druid skill Spirit Ward and get maybe even +1 on it, you can get a +3 skill. Same thing as Lidless, but you can still hit max block with Spirit Ward as well. You can also use Gurks. Gurks will give you a lot of defensive stats as well and pretty good block. You just don't get the % DR though. You get flat DR, but it's not as good, and your res can be as high. 3 socketed Storm Shield is insane though, so especially with the block rate on it. You don't have to get like block rate elsewhere. You're at least hitting that 32 frame for a druid. So yeah, it's just so solid. It also has such insane defense as well, which gets that defense really high. So it's very nice. I'm a big fan of Storm Shield on hardcore almost all the time. You know, I like using my Storm Shield. All right. Pringle's gloves. So once again, the goal is to hit 99 FCR. Most of the time, I recommend using some kind of attack speed gloves. You could use Mage Fist if you don't need the cold res. Arguably, I could, but I corrupted FCR on Train Gloves, so yeah, may as well use that, right? If you're gonna get 30 FCR on Train Gloves, that's gonna get your 99 breakpoint pretty easy, right? GG. Of course, just remember, sometimes you're gonna have to put FCR elsewhere. Gotta hit that 99 at least. This ring is pretty amazing. I only need 10 more FCR on my ring or on my AME somewhere, since this AME doesn't have like 17 or more or 19 FCR with my 23 FCR belt. If you only have 20 FCR in your rack though, you're going to need at least 9 FCR under AME. And if you hit 19, you can also use another skill ring. But one thing about this one is that this one, it's got life per kill and mana per kill. And since I'm not using Insight, I'm using Reaper's Toll, which is how you maximize your damage. Getting all that life and mana per kill and getting strength, life, poison res, and FCR on top of it is pretty insane for a ring on this build. There's definitely things you could consider, of course. If you don't want FCR elsewhere, you could even use like a 20 FCR ring, but it's pretty solid. We even have life per kill on my Stone of Jordan as well. And just having a lot of mana, good mana pool prevents having to chug pots. So like life per kill plus the replenished life means this character is also self-regaining his life most of the time. And it means you don't have to be chugging potions very often, which is nice. Because in hardcore you chug potions a lot to prevent your health from getting too low. To the point where you're in the red zone. If you get in that red zone or even the yellow zone, like you could be killed, right? So you don't want to get in that zone. So you're using lots of potions. Self-regen is very nice. I definitely highly recommend considering it for this build. Yeah, life per kill, yep. And then that's 5, yep. And then of course our cannot be frozen. You have to have cannot be frozen somewhere. It could be a corruption, it can be something, but you know, you will be slowed down. Even your cast will be slowed down, so you need your cannot be frozen. You could have it on a ring. You could even have it on the storm shield. You even have it on the helm if you're using a different helm. But the boots is one of the best spots to have it because it's one of the best stats on a boot particularly, whereas on other pieces of gear it's not the best stat. So it's like literally the best thing you can get on the boots. So, you know, it's going to be a nice spot to put it. I get more MF doing that, traps as well. If you need more block speed though, you can always wear water walks here. You can also put like shale runes if your res is too high. And then you can put water walks as well. Just get more dex as well and more life. So water walks is another very good choice for this build. You just have to like swap it out. Doesn't matter though. And then for the end here of the gear, we have our lifer LEGCs. Lifers are very good in hardcore, especially if you want to stomp like crazy like me. Since this build isn't like, even though it's way stronger than it was in Season 1, it's still not like super popular because there's some like crazy outlier S tier builds still like Trapson. These are actually not super expensive, so I was able to get these pretty easily. I did also make a couple or find a couple myself, but having a nice suite of LE Lifers is nice. That's where I get some of my FHRs. So my FHR isn't 0 at least, so at least I can, if I do take too much damage to my health, I'm not being put into crazy hit recovery. That 16 frame OP. Geeds, of course, 40 more MF. Just love that in that slot. You can always use 9 scores if you want, though. This is the strongest torch I have on my account on Season 2 HC right now. I actually made a YouTube video just showing IDing this thing because it was so crazy. It's literally 3 stats out of place. That's it. It's from 100% perfect on a torch, which is insane. And just having a torch and an Annie is definitely going to boost your damage, so it's not really the stats don't matter too much. And then right now I'm just using a lot of generic small charms, which tells you I could definitely have some upgrades here. And of course we can improve our MF if you feel like you're tanking enough already. For LOD content, this is way overkill, so you can definitely put like a lot more MF on them if you want. I actually don't need it as one too. I'm good hitting my 16 FHR breakpoint with the FHR charm here and the FHR charm here. I could hit the 26 if I wanted to, but it's like I said, I don't actually get put in hit recovery very often because one, I have Cyclone armor, so elemental damage isn't going to do it usually. And two, I have the animals, and then three in the mercenary, and then and then three I have it's a lot of DR and I block most of the time, so it's not super important to have a super high FHR frame. But that being said, sometimes you will be put in FHR frames, sometimes, rarely. You might want to make sure you're not, taking it too hard. But yeah, the Wind Druid is a solid A tier build. It is a strong, viable build, but not too strong. Last season, I would have said it was like C or B tier at best. I played it last season. I tried it out. It was hard to kill things, like even with pretty solid gear. I'd say our gear is like really solid, of course, but even without this level of gear, he's actually capable of clearing pretty well, especially in LOD content with all his mobility. He's safe, highly mobile. He does a lot of damage. And he's very versatile, having physical damage with amp, meaning he can pretty much kill everything. You don't have to worry about immunities much. He can do almost every map extremely well. And yeah, it's got very powerful stuff. Very solid A tier build. Remember, you can check out this guide on my YouTube, in addition to all the other guides I have under PD2 guides, under my section there. So there's a lot of guides we have now. I think this is guide number 8, if I'm counting right. Not 100% sure. Of course, there's a lot of cool options, of course, overall. They're all hardcore safe guides because we've been playing hardcore, so keep that in mind. Just remember, for softcore, you can always stack more damage. You don't have to worry about your DR as much as well. And just have fun in general. He tanks it up. He jumps around. He smashes. Get it. Get it, indeed. And remember, in my channel description and pinned comment, I will put the tiers for his maps. But he really kills all the maps pretty well. There's some maps that have those perfect corridors for the tornado to funnel all the monsters into his damage, which are the ones that I did. But overall, he can do pretty much all of them. The ranking, I'll give rankings for him, but it's pretty close. Like he can almost do them all. He's that solid at that, and he doesn't struggle at all. So GG. Remember, you can always catch me at www.twitch.tv/darkhumility, usually 7 days a week, playing some kind of Diablo 2 content. Yes, we'll be playing hardcore on D2R when it comes out as well. Going hard, of course. Probably going to go to level 99. And, yeah, check out this build and other guides. Get it. Dark Humility, over and out.